All right, module 4, let's go. It is the best part of this whole process. By now, you have your income figured out, your expenses figured out. You have started saving for your emergency fund. And by now, you should have everything plugged into your budget spreadsheet template that I have provided to you. You have your minimum payments for all of your balances owing put in. You know how much you're going to be spending on groceries, on your variable expenses, your fixed expenses. You want to make sure you have all of that done before we get into this, the most exciting part of this whole entire process. And I know budget and excitement and debt aren't usually three words that we put together, but if you change your attitude to being like, I'm so freaking excited to get out of debt and put the work in to get there, and I can visualize myself getting to that point, it's going to be exciting for you. Trust me. We went from having cards upon cards, line of credit, student loan, all of the debt, to being debt free in less than 4 years because of this process. And this is personal experience. There are tons of ways to pay off debt. Tons. You can consolidate. You can do a ton of different methods, but what we are going to do here is what's called the snowball method. And if you stick with me and follow this process and celebrate yourself every single step along the way, you will find yourself successful in creating a more financially fit life, whether that is completely debt-free or living more comfortably with debt. For me, I have stopped using credit cards. For some people, like, that might be unpopular opinion. Like I said, this is my opinion, my experience, and my personality. I am the type of person that if I have a credit card, it's kind of like Monopoly money, and I just forget to pay it off. I forget to look at it. And then one purchase turns into 7 purchases, turns into 17, turns into, well, I made it this far. What's another purchase? And that has honestly gotten me into multiple maxed out credit cards with high balances and paycheck to paycheck, really negative relationship with money, and a not so great relationship with my husband either, because finances were a issue for us. It was just that bickering over spending and how are we going to get out of this heavy load of debt. So I nixed my credit cards when we started our debt repayment journey in 2017, I think it was. Recently went back to using one. I have not changed. So I've since paid off the balance, and my card is on hold at this point. I like living within my means, and that means paying what I have in my bank account. If I don't have it in my bank account, I'm not spending money. That is where the emergency fund comes in, to make sure you have funds set aside for things that you don't really want to buy, but you got to buy, right? New winter tires, a new sink faucet, a new water heater, a new oil tank, a new heating system for your house, whatever it is, you need to have some kind of emergency fund set up. Yes, I'm reiterating that because it is that important that you get that $1,000 set aside. Back to the debt repayment. I'm going to attach a really simple tutorial to the end of this video so you get a visual for it, because I am a visual learner and I need to see the numbers to understand it. Because truth be told, I'm not great at math, or at least that's what I've always told myself, which has been a reason I've never been good at budgeting until I decided I was okay at math and I could figure it out. So what this whole system and process is, instead of taking your highest interest owing or your highest balance owing, you are going to look at your lowest to highest balances owing, and you're going to pay off your lowest owing balance first. This is not mathematically correct, but it is psychologically correct, in that if you are to pay off a $500 credit card, it's going to be a lot quicker to pay that off than a $5,000 credit card. And if you just put $500 on the $5,000 credit card and leave that $500 credit card and pay the minimum payment, you're not going to feel like you got anywhere that month, versus paying the $500 on the $500 owing. That card's gone. That debt is done. It's out of your life, and there's something huge to celebrate in that. Then it's on to the next highest balance owing. Debt. I was going to say card, but you might have student loan, line of credit, car payments, people that you owe, all of those things. We are ignoring the interest rate, and I'll explain that in the tutorial that's going to be coming next. But this is the snowball method. And what I want you to do is, in your workbook, you're going to see a page that has your snowball method, and it's going to give you a spot for each of your debts to go in, and you're going to cross them out as you go. But this is a page I really want you to print off and put up, whether it's on your fridge, your bathroom mirror, multiple places, your vehicle. So your debt is staring you in the face every single day. That might seem like a lot and kind of negative, but we got to be like this if we want to get ourselves out of this situation that we got ourselves in. No one else got us here. What we did was had a piece of paper up on our bathroom mirror, up on our fridge, that we saw every time we brushed our teeth, every time we opened the fridge, how much debt we owed. It kept us focused on what our goal, remember step 1, module 1, on what our goal was for the next 1, 3 to 5 years. Ultimately, that was to pay off all of those balances owing with the snowball method. So we saw at the bottom what we owed the least amount, and then it would be crossed off. We'd have a big red line through the black numbers. On to the next one. Our top one was like a $30,000 student loan that felt like we were never going to start putting payments on it. But here's the thing. As you pay off each debt, the debt you paid, like let's say you had $500 to put towards your lowest balance owing, that $500 gets attached to the next minimum payment. So it's snowballing how much money you have to put on debt every single month. It's a very exciting process. So let's check out the tutorial and get to work on your debt snowball.
This is an example of your debt snowball because if you're anything like me, you're a visual person and seeing it makes you believe it. So here you can start at the very top left of your screen, the start of month 1, and you're going to see your balances going from highest to lowest, and each debt that you have is listed. You'll also see your minimum payments are listed as well as the interest rate, but this is something that we aren't really paying any attention to unless you have 2 similar owing balances. Let's say you had 2 credit cards of $10,000, you would pay off the highest interest rate first. So that's the only reason we take that into account. Otherwise, we are just looking at the balances owing, and we are focused on knocking out the lowest owing balance first. So when you do your budget, you are going to take into account your minimum payments. So your previous lesson was to create your budget. In the debt column, these minimum payments all would have been added and been part of your monthly budget. At the end of your budget every month, you are going to hope to have, or from here on out are going to have, money left over. And that is from tweaking things and learning as you go. But for example's sake, we are going to say that after every month for these next 4 months in this example, that you have $500 left over after you pay those minimum payments and all your bills, that you have $500 left over. So that's just for an example. It might be anywhere from $0 to $1,000. We hope it never is less than 0, or then we're getting ourselves into a worse situation than we started, but things happen, and we're just saying $500 for these next 4 months. You'll notice just a couple things before we go through this example. The balance for the bigger items that we aren't paying off just yet, beyond the minimum payment, are going to stay the same, even though you are paying the minimum payment each month, because taking into account the interest rate, we don't know the exact way that this is going to change. So we just left it the same for straight up simplicity. You'll also notice that we left the minimum payments the same, and they are going to change a little bit as well, depending on your balance that remains, but we left them the same for simplicity. So let's get started with this. So if you look at the start of month 1, your lowest owing balance is your Visa of $650. So that's the first debt we are looking at attacking. So we pay all of our minimum payments on all our balances owing, and for that Visa, it's $150. So you're paying that minimum payment, plus you have your $500 left over at the end of your budget. So we're going to have an additional $500 to put on your Visa. 500 plus 150 is 650. And what do you know? End of month one, your first balance that you owe, your first debt that you owe, is knocked out and wiped out, and you are on to the next lowest owing balance. So this is where you already to start. You're already creating that momentum. You've had a small win, and you can see that if we had consolidated all of these debts to add up to one bigger number, it would feel like such a mountain to climb. But crossing up that first debt in your first month is such a win, and it's like, okay, on to the next one. So start of month 2, we have our car loan. There's a little over $2,000 left on that, and our minimum payment is $250. So we are paying that. Obviously, we are focused on paying our minimum payments, plus you have your $500 that's left over at the budget, like I said, and you now have your $150 minimum payment from your Visa. So we add that to our debt repayment as well, so because that $150 has to go somewhere. So for this month, we have the $500, the $150 from your Visa, plus the $250 minimum payment on your car loan. So we're putting $900 on your car loan that month, which is great. And you're still paying your minimum payments on your MasterCard and your student loan. So then we're going into month 3, where we are saying this is a month where you have an extra paycheck. So there's a couple months of the year where you have an extra paycheck coming in. You'll also have extra bills going out, no doubt, if you have biweekly payments and biweekly income coming in. But again, this is for example's sake to say if you have extra income coming in, that gets put toward debt too. So at this point, we have a little over $1,300 to put on your car loan. We have your minimum payment here, which is the same as last month. Plus we have the $150 from your Visa minimum payment. Plus we have the $500 left over from the budget. Plus we have that additional income from your paycheck that was left over. So it's not actually $500 this month. It's more than that. So $1,350 is going on your car loan, which is super exciting in month 3. So at the end of month 3, start of month 4, when you go to do your budget, your car loan is wiped out. And now you are on to those 2 bigger balances owing, but that's all you have left. And then this mountain that you started with on month 1 doesn't seem like it's that far away from you reaching the summit. It still might be a little bit of a distance, but you can feel that momentum, and it's really going to start to pick up now because you're going to have your $150 minimum payment from your Visa, your $250 minimum payment from your car loan, and you're going to have your $500 that's left over at the end of your budget that month. Your income went back to regular. So for that month, you have $1,200 to put on your MasterCard above and beyond that just $300 of that minimum payment. So there's no question where that extra $900 is going. It goes right on the MasterCard. And then it just snowballs. Again, you do it over again the next month. And by the time you get to paying off your student loan, your payments are going to be so much higher because you're going to have all of those previous minimum payments to put on them. Plus, you're going to have more money left over at the end of your budget because you're getting smarter and wiser as each month goes on.